All righty. We're starting a little early today. We're 15 minutes early. We are going to watch because the Brewers' magic number is currently 1. And if this game ends how it currently is, which is in the bottom of the 8th inning, if this game ends how it currently stands with the Cubs losing 5-3, the Brewers will clinch the NL Central and be the first team in baseball to clinch a division.
That's incredible when you break it all down.
Yeah.
You get in your time machine, you go back to February, March, April, and you think about where some of these experts were picking the Brewers to finish after all the offseason stuff they went through. It's incredible that they have a chance today. Thank you. Okay, let me back up because now I just thought of something. This is not scripted, by the way. We just Tyler just came up with this idea, and I was
3 minutes ago.
Let's go. The Oakland A's, of all teams, against a team coached by our former manager, are going to help us clinch the division. This is what makes baseball awesome, is the random scenarios that just happen for no good reason. Good for us, not good for the Cubs.
But that's hilarious for us.
Yes. All right. Oh, Brewers.
So we're in the bottom of the 8th. Let's see if we can get her done. Let's go, Oakland. Got the MLB game day going on.
I like it.
The A's just took a 5-3 lead in the 8th inning. They were down. I think they were down 3-1, then came back to tie it 3-3, and are now leading 5-3. So we're gonna see. We're gonna see if we can clinch this live. Seiya Suzuki strikes out. There's 1 out. 5 outs away. 5 outs away from the Brewers clinching. Strike 1. Strike 2. Love that. Juan Bellinger strikeout for the boys. Strike 3. Let's go. Attaboy, Bellinger.
He's up there hacking, boy.
He is up there hacking. That's awesome.
I actually heard
4 outs away from the Brewers clinching the division.
Let's go, baby. Back to back, dude. Nobody thought this was possible.
Dude, if they might have to face Mason Miller in the 8th or in the 9th.
So I was talking to Tyler before this, and I was like, the Phillies and Brewers both have the same magic number. And the Mets game, I believe, starts like 40 minutes or something, or a half an hour before the Brewers and Phillies matchup tonight. So before the end of the Brewers-Phillies game, no matter if the Phillies win or lose, the Brewers and Phillies could clinch on the same day.
That would be interesting.
They're both going to party in American Family Field. They're going to party together. Be like, hey, see you in the playoffs.
All right.
Congratulations.
Let's meet in the NLCS. Get the fucking Dodgers out of here.
That would be really, really interesting if they both clinch at the same time. What, they just going to have champagne for both?
Phillies can get their own. There we go. Way to come back.
Hey, they're going to pay for it, but I'll say we'll supply. We'll be nice hosts. Wisconsin nice, you know? Give us a little bit more money towards that Jackson Churio Supermax he's going to be getting in 10 years.
Yeah.
Save it in the piggy bank.
There we go. Strike 2. Even the count.
Yeah, if they have to face Miller in the 9th, You might as well just start hanging the banners around American Family Field.
Yep.
That guy's good.
Yep. We're about to become really big Oakland A's fans in about an inning.
Yeah, we are.
Oh, it's that
Bigger than Damian Lillard.
Right? What do we
Love
get?
that.
Said it's an out. Ground out.
Ground out.
1, 2, 3, 8th. Here we go. We are 1 inning away. 1 inning away. All right. So as the players are coming off the field, Jake and I were just going to jump in. We're going to give our power pairs and our underrated performers really quick while this inning changes. So I'll go first. My power pair position player is Garrett Mitchell. He was 6 of 18 over the last week, had 1 home run, 1 triple, 2 doubles. So out of his 6 hits, 4 of them, were for extra base hits. So that's very good. He also had 4 walks, scored 4 runs, and drove 4 runs in. My power pitcher is Frankie Montas. He pitched last night, but over the last week, he had 2 appearances, 2 starts. He pitched 11 2/3 innings, gave up 3 runs, 8 hits, 4 walks, and 18 strikeouts. So cut that in half across his 2 starts. Basically, over the last week, he averaged about 5 2/3 innings, gave up a run and a half, 4 hits, 4 walks, and 9 Ks per start between the last 2. And then my underrated performer, I went with Jackson Churio. He was 8 for 29 over the last week. That's a 276 batting average. He had 2 home runs, a triple, and 2 doubles. So he had 5 extra base hits out of his 8 hits over the last week. He scored 6 runs, drove in 8, had 3 walks, 4 if you include the intentional walk, and only struck out 6 times.
Nice.
So very good for that. So we're going to go back to the A's and Cubs. And then in between the top and the bottom of the 9th, I'll have Jake give his power pair. So let's go A's. Let's add some insurance.
Here we go.
Jorge Lopez. I wonder what his stats are like this year. I think he's the dude that got cut from the Mets after saying that the Mets were a bad team.
Might be. Yeah.
I'm 99% sure that that's who this is. And he played for the Brewers at some point too. He did. He played for the Brewers in 2018.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
And yes, he is the dude that got released.
That was this year, right?
What's that?
Was that this year or last year?
That was this year, yeah.
That was this year, yeah.
Yep. He's actually been pretty decent. He's got a 3.00 ERA this year, but he has a 4.09 FIP. So.
And now he has to watch the Mets go to the playoffs, and he's on the Cubs, who are not going to be in the playoffs.
Oh, man. Landed a couple of good changeups, though. Good for him, I guess.
Tell you what, man. They say that karma is a bee, and you never know when she's coming, but she will make her way around.
Man, speaking of being up there hacking.
Yeah, but we're okay over here, Zach. We're okay.
CC in the dugout wishing he stayed in Milwaukee. Man. I mean, I guess this is one of those situations that goes to show the grass is not always greener.
No, or the ivy in this case.
Very well played.
Thank you.
Man, Jorge Lopez just out there throwing strikes, though. Good for him.
That's okay. Make it quick so we can hurry this up and get over to Mason Miller and get them out of town.
And just shut that down real quick. All right.
I got to see who's up bat for the Cubs in the 9th here.
Ooh, good to know. That is good to know.
Let me see. And play-by-play. So the last person to bat, okay. Go to box score. So it'll be Matt Bush, or Michael Bush, sorry. Nico Horner and Pete Crow Armstrong will be the last out, which is literally poetic justice, dude. That is poetic justice.
I hope he strikes out on a horrible pitch.
Oh, I hope he strikes out so bad, dude. I will laugh. I will laugh so hard.
Couple quick outs so far. Zach said, I'm happy with the guys on our team this year. Do you think the youth on this team will struggle under the bright lights once the postseason is here? Let me say this. So yes, it'll be a learning situation, and it's going to be a completely new animal for a lot of these guys. Not all of them. Churion Ortiz, I believe. Actually, Ortiz. Man, I'm wondering if I don't even remember
Just
if
I'll look
Baltimore
it
was
up.
in
Keep
playoffs
going.
last year.
Keep going.
But like Churiel will be getting his first playoff experience with the Brewers. Ortiz will be getting his first playoff experience with the Brewers. But I mean, like guys like Mitchell and Frelick, they were here last year. Terang was here last year. So like some of these guys have a smidge of playoff experience, but what it comes down to for me is not necessarily that they're going to struggle with the lights of the postseason, but a guy that is going to make a difference in helping this situation is Rhys Hoskins. Rhys Hoskins' impact on this team as far as the playoffs go will go beyond the stat sheets.
Yep. So I'll say this. First of all, great question. Okay. For me, the way the Brewers play, they score with 2 outs. They give you good at bats. They can have prolonged at bats, 7, 8, 9, 10 plus pitch at bats. They steal bases. They play good defense. They have a new guy in the bullpen that steps up seemingly every single day. They've used a number of starting pitching. This season has been crazy. The way that they play, if they stay true to how they are, I don't think that they could struggle with anybody. I think that they could win the whole damn thing, in my opinion. I do think that the leadership on this team, like Tyler brought up, Hoskins, Willie Adames, Contreras, guys like that are going to have to be very good leaders, and I trust them to be good leaders.
I agree. Zach said he hopes the pitching can hold up. Here's the thing: is there won't be bullpen management in the playoffs.
Nope.
It's going to be the starter is going to go 5, and then we're going to see 4 relievers for an inning apiece.
Yep,
if it's Brian Hudson, we might see him for 2.
Yeah, it's going to be if your arm is attached and we need you, you're going.
You're pitching, yeah.
Because there is no tomorrow. Once we get through, what is it, 11 games?
I think it's 11 games now.
Yeah, once we get through the next 11 games, there is no tomorrow.
Yeah,
let's win today.
Only thing that changes is the national media will need to talk good about us.
Hey,
and I hope so.
That's what I'm talking about, Brad. They've actually given us our flowers at many different points during this season.
I'll say baseball media specifically has done a good job.
Yeah.
Like MLB Network has done a good job of giving the Brewers credit.
Yeah. They interview our players quite a bit. They've interviewed Murphy a few times, so they've
talked about some of the adjustments to some of the mechanics of some of the guys.
Yeah, it is a little sad that baseball's not more popular. It's just I don't think they put enough money into advertising it as much as they should.
And I think the blackouts, I think that hurts.
Yeah.
I think that turns people off of it.
Yeah,
all right, it's Mason Miller time. Miller time. There it is. There's the caption.
Oh, dude.
Miller time.
Miller, former manager, former stadium name, the Cubs, the clinch. This is God at work right now. This is God at work. The baseball gods are working for us.
Zach said, I hope we don't give Pat Murphy a hard time for his aggressive base running strategy. God forbid we make some mental lapses on the base head for boneheaded base running errors this postseason. I don't even think it's boneheaded. I think it's just the aggressive nature that they have baked in. So we never will, because if you're going to be aggressive, you have to be aggressive all the time. And if being aggressive worked 100% of the time, everybody would do it. There we go, Miller time.
I'll say this, Zach. The aggressiveness that the Brewers play with, they force the issue. You can translate that to the Packers. They may give up a play or 2 on defense, but they are forcing the issue, forcing the quarterback to make reads and make plays. And quarterbacks are making mistakes because they're human and they're prone to mistakes. So the aggressive nature is just flowing through from one pro sports team to the next one, and hopefully it goes over to the next Milwaukee sports team and they play an aggressive style defense as we get into the Bucs season here pretty soon.
Yeah, I'm with that. All right, we are 2 outs away from the Brewers clinching the division. 2 outs away.
That was a close pitch for them to call a ball. And then he gives you 100 at your face. Jesus Christ, man.
Mason Miller's nuts.
Yeah, he's insane. And I'm telling you, dude. And then he gives you one on the hands.
That one's close too, even.
Nico Horner's got a pretty good bat, though, I will say.
Yeah,
And
I think he's got good plate discipline too.
Yeah, I don't hate
strike one. Come on, paint one. paint one on the corner that he just rolls right back to you.
99 at the chest, dude. Like, you're doing nothing with that.
No. Damn. All right. Time for double play ball, Mason. I respect Nico Horner, except for the fact that Bryce Durang is better.
Yeah, I agree. Bryce Durang's going to win that Gold Glove this year.
Man.
The Brewers have 3 potential Gold Glove guys, if we're being serious.
Yep. I agree. Oh, damn. Nico Horner is actually a high chase percentage. So he apparently was just going up there not swinging at all.
Huh.
Which makes sense because I think he literally looked at all 5 pitches.
I do think the Brewers can catch up to the Dodgers, Zach, yes.
Let's see.
They're 3 behind, right?
I'm going to pull up the standings right now, and then I'm going to look at the Dodgers' schedule.
Oh, in play outs. In play.
Tell me that's a double play ball.
That's a double play.
Grounds into a double play. There it is.
Brewers are champs, baby.
Yeah. We were hoping for an ugly strikeout, but Pete Crow Armstrong grounds into a double play. Love that for us. Dude, he's better than Churio. Like hell.
We need to put that on the social.
Hell yeah. Well, there it is. The Milwaukee Brewers are officially National League Central Division champions. In a year, they were projected to win 79.5 games. And they have won the division. Hell yes. Love that for us. Love that for the Cubs, too. Oh, couldn't have happened to a better fan base. Love that.
Let's go. Let's go.
Wow. Love that.
Let's go, boys. Champs, baby. Come on. Let's go. I'm stoked about that. That's sick, dude. That's so sick, dude. Come on.
That is awesome. Dude grounds into a double play to end their season.
That's so funny. Let's go. PCA better than Churio. I don't want to hear that shit ever again. I like it. I like it.
Love that. Boom. All right. So now that the Brewers have officially clinched the National League Central, I already gave my power pair and underrated performer. So I'm going to go back to Jake so he can give his, the tone of the show has taken an even more exciting tone than it normally does. So love that. Love that.
Yeah, these few losses we're going to talk about are going to hurt a lot less now. Just going to say that. But my power position player was Bryce Durang. 375 average, 444 on base, 417 slug, and an 861 OPS. So he was very good this last week. 9 of 24, 6 runs, a double, 2 RBIs. He had 3 walks, 3 strikeouts, 3 stolen bases. He's up to 44 now in the year. And he had a 5-game hitting streak, which ended yesterday, but it's a good sign that he's getting on base consistently by hitting the ball. My power pair pitcher, I went with Aaron Savali. 5 innings, 7 hits, 1 earned run. It was a solo shot. 1 walk and 6 Ks. Since August 3rd, he's made 8 starts, and he has a 6-2 record. So he's been giving the Brewers some quality starts and keeping them in ball games. And then for my underrated performer, I went with a guy who – no, I won't say that. Erica. I went with Ericas. He had a 429 average. Now, he didn't appear in a lot of games. I know that. 429 on base, 857 slug, and a 1.286 OPS, so over 1,000 OPS. 3 for 7, 2 runs, a home run, and 2 RBIs. So Tyler did some digging for me and found out that he has a crazy home run rate. Now, obviously, we both agree on this. It is not sustainable over the workload of a guy like Aaron Judge, but he actually has a higher home run percentage than Aaron Judge. On average, with the home run percentage that he has, he was on pace for, 48 home runs, you said? Something like that?
It'd be about that, yeah.
So, in my opinion, and Tyler brought up some good scenarios, I think that he needs to be the first guy off the bench in a pinch hitting situation. The guy hits for power, hits for average. He finds a way to get on. We've seen it all the way going back to spring training. The Brewers had a problem. Are they going to keep 3 catchers? And they just couldn't find a way to do it. He found his way onto the roster. So Eric Haas has been tremendous. He's handled everything professionally. So wanted to give him a shout out during one of the last weeks of the season.
Yeah, for sure. So going into it, we can start with the second game of the Giants series. Now, Jake went live last Thursday, so Jake already talked about this game, but I'm just going to give you my thoughts right here. So this is Brewers-Giants game 2. This is literally my thoughts. So we can move to game 3 of this game, or this series. I mean, I've talked about it a bunch of times. If the Brewers win 2 out of 3, I could give a shit how many runs they get outscored by in the one that they lose.
Nicely done.
You know, run differential over the course of a season can be a telling number, but run differential over the course of a 3-game series, I don't give a shit if you are winning more games than you're losing.
Yep.
So just my only couple things that I wrote down about game 2. Andres Monasterio had 2 at-bats. The exit velocities on his hits were 99.3 and 99.6, so it's good to see him in sparse playing time, still hitting the ball hard. Now, obviously, in this game, Colin Ray didn't have his good stuff. He threw 74 pitches, only 46 strikes. That's about 62.2%. So that's pretty low. If you look at his season numbers, his zone percentage is 51.9, and the chase percentage on the hitters that he faces is 24.2. That equals about 76%. So that 62% is about 14% below where he averages for the season. His velocity was normal, but his spin was down on all of his pitches. So he just didn't have his best stuff in this game. Also, Elvis Peguero and Hobie Milner were not their sharpest either. And probably next week or maybe the week after, Jake and I will give our thoughts on what this means for the postseason roster. But after this game, Elvis Peguero was sent back to AAA and Enoli Paredes was activated. So we traded one EP for another EP. And now we can go to game 3 of the Giants series. So, Jake, what stood out to you from the Brewers and Giants finale?
So, first of all, Montes was on the mound, and he was good. I
wrote brilliant in my notes.
I don't want to go too outlandish here. I want to stay in my realistic zone that I'm in right now. But he might be the pitcher that has the biggest set of balls in terms of the starting pitching, where he goes up there and he's just like, listen, you got a bat? I got this ball. I'm going to throw this motherfucker, and you're going to try to hit it. That's how this is going to go. So I love Montes. I feel like he's fearless. I could definitely get behind him. He's the guy that I'd want on the mound in a win-or-go-home situation on the road. That's just my opinion. Just because of the way that he handles himself.
If it's on the road, I might go Colin Ray just because he's weirdly been really good on the road.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, just for, like, I don't know, aesthetics, I guess, just how he handles himself. Then you got Ashby. We can't give this guy enough credit. He's just been not a human lately. Trevor McGill looking like Trevor McGill, and Devin Williams will come back to that. But Brewers win this one 3-0. So another shutout game for the Brewers, 5-hit shutout for them. And now we got to talk about Jackson Chourio hitting a home run and setting an MLB record. Youngest player in MLB history to have 20 homers and 20 stolen bases. He just edged out Mike Trout because Mike Trout did it on his 21st birthday. So close. That ended up being a 2-run Oppo Taco at San Francisco. It is hard for a right-handed batter to go opposite field in San Francisco, so that's impressive strength. And it brings me to something that I heard last night from Bill Schroeder that I'm disappointed I didn't even think about, but Chourio hasn't even filled out. Like, his arms are not filled out. His shoulders are not what they're going to be.
Yeah.
Like, this is literally giving me flashbacks to baby Giannis in a lot of ways, where you're seeing the potential of this kid, and you're just like, oh man, imagine if he hits the weight room. Wait till he figures this out. Wait till he figures this out. And it's just like, boy, this guy's going to be fucking good, dude. Shout out to Terang for being on base. He ended up getting on base by an infield single for Chourio to hit a 2-run homer to make that one hurt a little bit more to opposite field. There were no runs in this game until the 7th inning when Adames got on base with a walk, and then he ended up rounding the bases on 3 straight wild pitches. So good job by Adames with good patience, and then being able to score to give the Brewers a lead, and then Chourio added to it in the 8th inning. But other than that, man, good win.
So you mentioned Frankie Montas, obviously brilliant. He was locating well. He was hitting 97 miles an hour with his fastball. His slider was biting. He had 2 walks in the 4th inning with 2 outs. One of them came on a pitch timer, so that wasn't even like, he made a bad pitch and gave up a walk. One of them came on a pitch timer violation. Mm-hmm. But he had 8 strikeouts, and he had 19 whiffs. 19 swing and misses in this game. And he had normal velocity, normal spin, normal break. He was just straight shoving and painting corners. Great start by Frankie Montas. And then Ashby comes in and does the exact same thing. Dotting corners at 98 miles an hour. And, sometimes we say that, a breaking pitches or they're biting. His were eating, full-on eating. That's how well his breaking stuff looked. And you already mentioned Trevor McGill. He only needed 12 pitches to get 3 strikeouts in the 8th inning.
Yeah.
He came in and he's just like, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, and you're all done. Doesn't matter what order it happened in because you all struck out. So the other 2 things, I'm going to talk about Sal Frelick first before we do Devin Williams. Sal Frelick, he was fantastic in right field. I don't think, and I texted you this during this game, that we've given him enough credit or hyped him up enough for a potential Gold Glove.
Yeah.
He caught a bunch of tough flyouts, and he played a single perfectly off of the wall in right field that would have been a double for most right fielders. They would have just assumed it's a double, played it safe and just played it off the wall, whatever bounce, and given up a double. And Sal Frelick, the way that he played the ball off of the right field wall, held the runner to a single. Now we can go to the 9th inning. Devin Williams gets a 3-pitch strikeout, gives up a single to Mark Canha. I'm going to put a pin in this just because I respect Mark Canha so much. Because that dude is not flashy. He's not, he's not flamboyant in any way, shape, or form. Like, he's not wearing a bunch of chains and, he doesn't have, all the pads and everything. He's not wearing super bright colors. Mark Canha is just a baller who goes out there and just does his job.
Yep.
I respect the hell out of Mark Canha. And then after that, Devin Williams gives up a double, which he then responds with a strikeout and a ground out to end the game.
I like it.
Let's go to the Diamondbacks series. So the Brewers take 2 out of 3 from the Giants in San Francisco, and their West Coast road trip continues with their second series with one of the hottest teams in the second half of the season, being the Diamondbacks. So what stood out to you from game 1 against the Diamondbacks?
Yeah, so before we get into this, we have to talk about a few things. The Diamondbacks have scored the most runs in Major League Baseball. They have a crazy good offense for scoring runs, if that's the metric you want to use. They also came into the series versus the Brewers having the most 2-out runs, overtaking that spot from the Brewers. I'm going to tell you right now, they did not leave the series with the lead with 2-out runs scored. But we're going to talk about game 1 right now. And the reason I brought up the run scored is people are not showing as much confidence in the Brewers pitching staff as they should be, in my opinion. Yes, they've had games where they got shelled. Every pitching staff has had games where they got shelled. They held the highest scoring team in baseball to 1 run. So when you zoom out before I get into the breakdown, you go 18 innings versus the Giants and the Diamondbacks giving up 1 run. That's enough proof for me to be like, okay, they can get it done when it matters.
Yeah.
And this is against the Diamondbacks team, like you said, which is on fire in the second half. They score a lot of runs. They're young. They're at home. The Brewers have been on the road for a little bit now at this point. So it's just impressive stuff. We get into the game now. We go into Peralta, right? And he's another guy who has been getting a lot of hate, unwarranted hate, in my opinion. 5 innings pitched, 6 hits, an earned run, 4 walks, and 5 Ks. At the end of the day, I've said this before, thing you need to look at, 5 innings pitched, 1 earned run. That's all you need to give a shit about. You don't need to look at the hits. Don't need to look at the walks. Don't even need to look at the strikeouts. If he has a crazy strikeout game, that's what you want to talk about, go ahead. But you need to look at the innings and the earned runs. He went 5 innings. That's all we're going to ask of our starters in the playoffs because we have enough guys in the bullpen that can handle the next 4 innings. And in this game, that's exactly what happened. Piamps, Koenig, McGill, and Williams, they all go an inning piece. They all give up 0 hits. They all give up 0 earned runs. They had 1 walk, and they had 4 strikeouts combined. That's disgusting stuff out of this pitching staff. Just impressive. And the next thing that was impressive, first of all, I'll give a shout-out to Ortiz and Churio, both having doubles in this one. Ortiz got his 23rd. Churio got his 27th. And then Rhys Hoskins, dude. We've talked about it so many times. People are going to get on about batting average, which batting average, get the hell away from that. This is not 2001 anymore, okay? Yeah. That stat was used a long time ago. That's not the stat to use anymore. He's a clutch time player, and he's a power bat. He has to be in the middle of this lineup. And he's a prime time playoff performer. He's been there before. He's been around winning. He knows how to win. And in this game, they don't win without him. He ends up cranking a home run. And that thing was still climbing, I think, when it hit the seats. Crushed one for a 73rd RBI, 2 RBIs in this one as a 2-run shot, 24th home run of the year with 2 outs. I mean, what more can you ask for from Rhys Hoskins coming over off of a year where he had an entire year off, and he's just been a great leader. He's just hitting in the clutch, and he's just showing how to have good at-bats when you need to have good at-bats. So this was a great win, back-to-back great wins.
Yeah, and not to mention, Cody said he'll step up in the playoffs. He lives for it, and I agree with you. And he also dealt with another injury this year. Like, he dealt with that hamstring injury that kept him out for a couple weeks.
That's very true. Didn't even think about that.
So Reggie's excited, joining from the Brewers, fresh off of clinching the NL Central. And Cody thanking the Cubs. Man, thank the A's. Thank the A's for getting her done. Also, shout out to Pete Crow Armstrong for grounding into a double play to end the Cubs season. Love that.
Yeah, we're going to be petty about it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely going to be petty about it. So, looking at it, game 1, Freddie Peralta, the first inning got a little hairy, but he did a good job to limit the damage to 1 run. Mm-hmm. He gave up 4 walks and had 5 strikeouts. 4 walks, 5 strikeouts, that drove his pitch count up. But for him to get through 5 innings pitched on only 1 earned run is good against a great offensive team, like you were pointing out. Mm-hmm. Cody said he missed an entire season. Baseball is hard enough practicing every day. That's fair.
You would think people would understand that, but apparently they don't.
Yeah, you would think that. Okay. After that, the Brewers did strike out 5 times the first time through the order. That's a lot. They struck out 12 times total. I'd like to see that number around 8 or 9, but they did have 6 walks and 2 intentional walks. So they were just going deep counts on everything. Jackson Churio, his leadoff double, 111 miles an hour off the bat.
Yeah.
Dude is just out here smoking baseballs. They were talking about it, was it Tuesday night or was it Monday night's game? About all of the blue dots that he has on his bat. Yeah. From the ink from the baseball transferring to his bat because he's just smoking baseballs that hard.
That's crazy, dude.
It is crazy. I hope he goes back to a lightly colored bat so you can see all those again, because that's just a dude who's just out here getting it done. You mentioned Rhys Hoskins' home run and ended up being basically the game winner. Willie Adames made a really nice defensive play in the bottom of the 8th inning to help turn a double play, which Terang made a beautiful turn on. And then looking at the bullpen, Yoel Payamps, Jared Koenig, Trevor McGill, and Devin Williams, 1 inning pitched each, no hits, 1 walk, 4 Ks.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go to game 2. What's up to you from game 2 of the Diamondback series?
So the offense was in a little bit of a slump, you could say. They were winning games, but they were in a little bit of a slump. 5 runs, and they won 2 games in a row. They're going into the playoffs, so the team thought they needed a pep talk, and they brought in Dustin Pedroia. And I got to tell you, it worked. It definitely worked because they responded with 15 runs, 9 of them with 2 outs. They could have literally just used their 2-out run potential that they had in this game, and they would have still won this game, which sounds ridiculous when you say they gave up 8 runs. That's so stupid.
Yeah.
I really don't think people understand how dumb that is. Tobias Myers in this one struggled a little bit. Now, we held the D-backs down for 1 game, but they were going to get their get back. You don't be the highest scoring team overall in Major League Baseball and not score a lot of runs. So they ended up scoring a lot of runs in this one, 8 runs. Didn't matter because we scored 15. We scored more than them. Mm-hmm. Milner pitching this one, struggled a little bit. And then my boy, Anoli Cannoli is back, baby. I was so excited to talk about Anoli Cannoli, dude. I was like, dude, I haven't said that shit in so long. Let's go. Adames hit 2 home runs in this one, up to 32 in the year, 107 RBI, had a grand slam with 2 outs in this one, 5 RBI for him. Perkins an RBI. Contreras had 4. He's up to 88 now during this current game, 22 home runs. Terang with 53 RBI. Mitchell with 3 RBIs, up to 17, 6 home runs for him. And Churio's up to 72. We are going to have to visit my Churio numbers because him being on fire so much has helped me look so smart, dude. He's helped me look so smart. I'm going to have to go back. I'm going to write that down. You give your thoughts. I'm going to have to go back and maybe make a little separate video.
So the Brewers scored first in this game and never looked back. The top of the second, they had 4 singles, 2 walks, and a grand slam, all with 2 outs. In the top of the 4th inning, Churio and Contreras both had rocket doubles and then back-to-back home runs by Willy Adames and Garrett Mitchell. And the Brewers just tacked on some insurance later. Now, looking at it, Sal Frelick maybe made the play of the game on the second pitch of the game in the bottom of the 1st inning, robbing a home run. Fantastic. Looking at it, Hobie Milner gave up a couple singles, and then Anoli Paredes let a few hits through. It was his first game off the injured list. So looking at the Brewers pitching, what I would have liked to see is Tobias Myers done after 6 innings pitched and 88 pitches. But he's also earned the choice to go deep in games because he's done it before. Like we saw the Tigers game, he pitched 8 innings. He's pitched 7 innings against the Rockies. He's done more than 6 innings multiple times. So he's earned that. Also, the Brewers are still currently in a 13-game straight stretch. So this becomes a conundrum. This becomes where you go from a managerial standpoint, where you are Pat Murphy. You have a pitcher who is pitching very well through 6 innings. He's at 88 pitches. You try to get one more inning out of him, or do you pull him after that? Because the other side of the coin that you have to keep in mind is we are playing 13 games straight. We are about to play one of the teams that's above us in the standings. This team is currently below us in the standings. Who do we try to set ourselves up with our best pitchers available for? So I don't care that the Brewers ended up giving up 8 runs in this game, because with what they were doing with the bullpen, they were trying to coast to the win. Similarly, with leaving Tobias Myers in for potentially another inning, they were trying to coast to a win to save the bullpen because they had already scored 13 runs. Right. So, like I said, I'm not mad that they gave up 8. I could care less because they won. So let's go to game 3. We'll have some similar conversations with the 3rd game of this series, but let's talk about the beginning of the game first, and we'll save the extra innings decisions for after.
Yeah. So this is where my underrated performer, Eric Haas, got his home run, 2 RBIs in this one, up to 13. He got it with 2 outs, his 5th homer of the year. So, I mean, it's crazy that he has his 5th homer. I don't understand. He makes no sense. Churio ended up hitting a home run in this one, his 21st of the year. Also, Bryce Strang's 69th run scored. So
Nice.
Frelick and Churio, like I said, had RBIs. Adames had 2 RBIs up to 109. He also with 2 outs. Now, there was a lot of runs scored in this one, okay? And people were upset that they gave this game up. Now, in the 3rd inning, Arizona scored 3 runs. Between innings 5 through 7, the Brewers ended up scoring 8 unanswered, which is really stupid. But that's just the potential of this offense, is they could just explode.
Yeah.
And that's what's super exciting about them going into the playoffs, is they could just explode for 10 runs or 8 runs. And it's just like, oh, okay, that was fun. I enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun.
They can put up 5 spots with 2 outs.
Yeah, they've done that consistently this year. Now, in the 7th and 8th inning, Arizona responded with 3 runs of their own, ended up tying the game. Mm-hmm. And then that's where I will pause my conversation for the 10th inning later.
Yeah, so the game started, and Diamondbacks jumped out to a 5-0 lead. Put a pin in that because I'm going to come back to that. Mm-hmm. It was interesting to see because the top of the 5th inning, where the Brewers started to score their runs and start their comeback, started the same way as the top of the 3rd inning did, with Eric Haas and Bryce Turang both singling. Now, in the top of the 3rd, those 2 singled, and then Jackson Churio had a fielder's choice. This time in the 5th inning, both of those guys singled, and Jackson Churio hit a bomb of a home run, yanked a home run. Also in this game, Churio drew a walk, had an RBI triple, and also at 20 years old, his triple came off of a 103-mile-an-hour fastball that had a 110.2-mile-an-hour exit velocity.
Oh.
Dominic Cotroneo reported that as the hardest hit on a pitch of that speed in the StatCast era.
Oh, my God.
This 20-year-old registered the hardest hit off of a 103-mile-an-hour pitch out of any of them that have been faced since 2015. He's 20.
Yep, he is about to be the best player in our team's history.
Oh my God, dude! We can't say any more things. Like, he's insane.
Yeah, he's monsters, dude.
Oh man, we might have to do a Jackson Churio apology form or a video just going through people saying dumb shit when he got his contract and be like, "Don't be this guy." So the Brewers did score 7 more 2-out runs in this game, and we can go to the end. So let's start with Yoel Payamps, because Pat Murphy said he would have gone back out for the 8th inning if he didn't have some forearm tightness. Now, thankfully, we know that a couple days later, it's not a long-term issue. It's not an injury list issue. But give me your thoughts just with how the 9th, 10th innings went and the potential decision-making going into it.
So this is the stance that I take. And this is how I think about it in the moment, and this is how I think about it now when I think about it. I can't question anything that the manager decides, the manager or coach. I'm going to use this as an all sports kind of conversation. I can't question that because in the moment when they announced that McGill is coming out, right, I don't know that Payamps has forearm tightness. So that's where, you kind of have to take a seat back and just allow them to do their jobs. Mm-hmm. Now, I can look at it and think about it and be like, dang, man, it really sucked that we lost this game. We kind of let this one get away. Or you can have the thought process of, you know what, the Brewers could have just laid down in this one. Mm-hmm. Just allowed this game to just happen and just moved on to the Philly series. But They didn't. They kept fighting, and they ended up scoring 2 runs in the top of the 10th inning to take the lead to try to win this one. Now, it sucks for Jared Koenig because he's been so dominant this year. But the way things that kind of just unraveled for him in that 10th inning, I got to tell you, man, my honest opinions on it, I really hate that free runner to start the extra innings.
I'm glad it's gone next year.
I don't like it at all. Yeah, I think,
and they don't have that in the playoffs either. It's not in the playoffs.
Yeah, so I love that. It's just, I feel like it's so Bush League. And for this is, I talked about it sucks that baseball's not more popular. They make a really, really good decision with the pitch clock because the pitch clock experiment has been outstanding. So and then they counter it with a terrible decision like they do with the free runner in extra innings. And it's like, you help yourself, you hurt yourself. It's like, dude, the extra base runner. I understand they don't want games going 700 hours anymore, but with the pitch clock, you're already speeding things up so much that if a game goes 10 innings, it goes 10 innings. If it goes 11 innings, you're still probably on time with what a 9-inning game used to be.
That's
So
a good point.
that's just my opinion on it. It just sucks with the extra runner. It puts so much pressure on the pitchers, but it is what it is. The Brewers just had too many walks in this one. That was obviously earlier in the game, but that's what I think ultimately hurt them going into the 10th.
Cody said hindsight's always 20/20. It absolutely is always 20/20. What I will say, and this is partially just the nature of where they were with the bullpen usage, is Jared Koenig, when they've tried to use him for multiple innings, he has struggled.
Yeah.
In one inning situations, he's been fantastic, but going multiple innings, he's struggled. But they're in a situation where Pat Murphy said after the game that they were trying to keep away from using Devin Williams for a full inning. They're trying to manage his workload a little bit because, yes, and now we know this today, that the Brewers are officially in the playoffs. So they are focusing on that aspect of where they're at with their season.
Mm-hmm.
So they wanted to limit Devin Williams to 1 or 2 hitters. So they wanted to potentially only bring him in if, say, that there was 2 outs in the 10th inning and it was still a 2-run game or even a 1-run game, and that's when they were going to potentially use Devin Williams. Now, yes, it sucks to lose not having used Devin Williams, but let's just flip over and let's look at this from the Diamondbacks perspective. So if you are questioning Pat Murphy, but think about where the Diamondbacks go when they were up 5-0 after the 3 innings to a team that's beaten you twice in a row to come back and take an 8-5 lead already, and then they had to go to extra innings to win 11-10 at home. That's a lot to have to do. So before we go to the Phillies series, we can mention Cody's comment. Cody said, I don't know, the wild card hasn't served us well lately. I kind of want to go for the 2 seed. And I'm not saying that they're just going to like lose on purpose or anything like that or not try to win, but they're definitely going to be focusing on preparing and making sure everybody is ready for the playoffs with what they're doing in their games. Like, they're not going to be trying to push Freddie Peralta to go an extra inning in a 1-run game against the Pirates.
Right.
Like, they're going to use everybody and try to manage everybody's workloads as the playoffs draw nearer. So they're not going to be using Devin Williams on back-to-back days. They're not going to be using Trevor McGill for 20 pitches in one day and then having him pitching the next day. Like, they're going to manage everybody. I think potentially in the next week or so we could see Brian Hudson back up, but we'll see what happens with that. But they're going to be in the back of their minds preparing for the playoffs regardless of what seed they get.
Yeah. And you know what? My opinion on that, we don't duck smoke. They're obviously going to go for the top 2 seed, but hey, if it's the wild card, it's the wild card. I go back to the last championship this state scene. That was the Milwaukee Bucks. They didn't try to duck the heat. They said, bring it on. We want the heat. We're going to be in the kitchen. We need the heat. We're not ducking smoke. We're going to go out there and we're going to whoop that ass. That's how the Brewers have to manage this as well.
And I'll throw this thing out there too. As far as recency goes, like, yes, it's well documented that the Brewers have lost to a team that's been in the World Series the last 4 times they've been in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Those are different teams. Those teams didn't have Jackson Chourio. Those teams didn't have Pat Murphy as the manager. Those teams didn't have Joey Ortiz. Those teams had Corbin Burns on it. Those teams didn't have Rhys Hoskins on them. Those teams didn't have Aaron Savali on them. Those teams had Brandon Woodruff. This team doesn't. Like, there's so many differences between the teams that lost to those eventual champions and World Series runners-up than there is to this team. So that previous past doesn't hold weight on the 2024 Milwaukee Brewers. Yes, it's in the back of the minds of fans because we saw it happen, but it's not in the front of the minds of the 2024 Milwaukee Brewers because only a handful of these players were on those teams. And even then, they still recognize that there are way more things that are different. This team is a much better offensive team than they've been in the last 5 years. This team has still good pitching, not the great dominant pitching that they had from 2018 to 2022, but still very good pitching and one of the best bullpens. And this team still plays great defense. So if you want to look at what they've done compared to the last teams, the pitching might not be dominant, but it's still good. But the offense has taken several leaps forward if we're comparing to previous teams.
Cody, that's crazy that you bring that up.
They don't rely on home runs, which is one of the things that we've talked about during the season is that they can win in different ways. I'm assuming you were about to give the stat.
Yep, that they have the best record in all of baseball without hitting a home run.
You are correct.
It is an under 500 record, but they still have the number one record in baseball without hitting a home run. So, I mean, that's impressive in its own right. And that's because, like we were talking about earlier, they get on base, they steal bases, they score with 2 outs. And, Tyler mentioned before, they can go on a five run binge with 2 outs. It's just ridiculous what this team does. They play for contact. They get deep into counts. They work starting pitching, getting to your bullpen, which, if they get into a situation where they're in a 7-game series, going deep into counts and getting your starter out and working the bullpen can become a big thing if you get to a game 6 or game 7, and now you've had a guy that pitched 2 days in a row, and you have to put your B bullpen out there. Now that kind of stuff comes into a factor. So that's the things I get to think about as well about the Milwaukee Brewers this year. They're impressive. And also, you bastard. You did that on purpose.
And they bunt.
They do bunt. Hey, I will say this. They do it. There's some of them are statistically pretty good at it, but I think the scenarios that they do it is the right time when they do it. That's the most important thing. It's not just that they bunt, it's just when the time and place when they do it, in my opinion.
The makeup of this team has so much speed on it. So sometimes I don't like bunting purposely to try to make an out, but some of the guys that they use to bunt, I'm okay with it because they can bunt for hits.
Yeah.
So I don't like sacrifice bunting.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the bunting to play for hits. It's the making an out on purpose in a game where you already, even if you're great, make outs 70% of the time.
Yeah.
And then you're going to try to do it on purpose on top of that.
Yeah. Yeah, that
starts to bug me.
We had a game, God, this must have been a month ago now, where Terang ended up having the game-winning bunt. That was a month ago, right? I forgot who that was against. But I remember bringing up Murphy's comments on it. And he said normally in that situation we wouldn't bunt and give up an out. Because then at that point you're only playing for 1 run, but it ended up working today.
Yeah.
I agree with that, Cody. That's
can induce bad throws, 100%.
I mean, well, never mind. I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself. So right now we're going to talk about the 2024 NL Central champion Milwaukee Brewers versus maybe tonight NL East champion Philadelphia Phillies. But in this one, the Brewers were the better team. They got their first win versus the Phillies, which feels really good. They beat the Dodgers at home as well when they faced them a couple weeks ago for their first win versus the Dodgers, or second win, I apologize. But being able to win against these top teams at home is a really good sign for this team. Savali was on the mound. He was my power pitcher, and he was very good. 5 innings pitched, 7 hits, an earned run, a solo shot from Brandon Marsh, who I will stand by it, is one of the fuggliest people in baseball because of that hair. I don't understand what he's doing with that. That is the opposite of what drip is, even though his hair is dripping. 6 Ks for Savali, and I have to give credit to Hobie Milner. I was texting you during this game. Hobie Milner looked like Hobie Milner at some points. What's up, Dan? How you doing, buddy? Hobie Milner looked like Hobie Milner in the first inning that he was in, and it was a sight for sore eyes, I gotta tell you, man. And I have a soft spot for Hobie Milner. Tyler kind of created it because that's kind of how we created our power player and underrated performer with how good Hobie was a couple of years ago. So I have created a soft spot for Hobie Milner. So him not being himself kind of hurts me a little bit in my soul. But it was awesome to see him against the Phillies. He might be a secret weapon against them if we face them in the playoffs because he's good against them. Colin Ray came out of the bullpen as well. So he's in discussion for MVP of this team, to be completely honest with you. Where would this starting pitching be without Colin Ray? He was consistent as can be for a long time. I know he had a rough outing the last start that he had. But he comes out of the bullpen, and like you said, saves the bullpen, gives 2 2/3 innings, his first career save, 3 hits, 0 earned runs, and a K. I mean, fantastic. Now, got to get into some stuff. First of all, Contreras hit a baseball in this game, 116 miles per hour. That's the third hardest hit of his career. He's had hits of 118 and 117. So, I mean,
I think the
fantastic.
118 was this year too.
What's that?
I think the 118 was this year too.
Yeah, it was. So, fantastic stuff from him. Fantastic stuff from Sal Frelick, who ended up throwing out a guy at 91 mile per hour. He threw the ball 91 miles per hour from the outfield to throw a guy out. And then he had his hardest hit of his career later in this one, a double down the line, which ended up moving Hoskins from first to third. If that's literally any other base runner, that's a run. Yeah. Bar none. That's a run and a triple. Yeah. It's a RBI triple for Sal Frelick. Excuse me.
Yep.
But Sanchez got an RBI in this one. Contreras got 2 RBIs. He's up to 90. Terang hits in Ortiz after he hit a triple. And mentioning Ortiz, right? The thing that I've noticed about Joey Ortiz is when he's actually seeing the baseball well, he hits the opposite field. And he had hard contact in back-to-back at-bats. One was a sac fly, and one was a triple. And both of them were the opposite field. So when he's hitting opposite field, just know that Isami Joey is seeing the ball very, very well. So this was a good win. 4 stolen bases for the Brewers also, by the way. 2 from Perkins, 1 from Contreras, and Terang got his 44th of the year. So good game for the Brewers.
Yeah. Cody asked thoughts on Hall and Ashby coming out of the pen in the playoffs. Honestly, what they've done, I'm confident.
Yes.
Yep. I'm confident in both of them. So I looked it up while you were talking about Hobie Milner. I pulled up his career numbers against Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
In the last 3 seasons for the Brewers, he has faced 30 total batters. He's given up 2 hits.
Damn.
So he's given up 2 hits. They were both singles. He's given up 1 earned run, which came this year. He's given up 3 walks, 1 hit by pitch, and has 7 strikeouts.
I'll tell you what, I remember one of those hits. So when I was thinking about you're still on Hobie Milner, all right?
Yep.
When I think about Hobie Milner against the Phillies, the first thing that pops in my head is him against Bryce Harper, where Bryce Harper literally didn't swing. He was like, "You never seen this guy." And he literally didn't swing, and Hobie Milner's just like, okay, I guess. And then the next time that he saw Hobie Milner, I remember Bryce Harper. I think we were actually watching that game together. And Harper just ends up just throwing his bat out there and gets a single. That's one of the hits that he gave up.
Yeah.
Was Bryce Harper just being elite. That's crazy.
Well, I don't know about starting him, but out of the pen, I like him, Cody. Okay. So in game 1, Aaron Savali. So he had the 5 innings pitched, gave up 7 hits and 1 walk to go with his 6 Ks, but he spread the traffic around. So something that I've been saying with the Brewers offense when they've been struggling is to stack traffic. Aaron Savali did a really good job of leveling it all out and spreading it out. That makes it harder to score runs.
Nice.
So I looked at it. After his first start with the Milwaukee Brewers, he gave up 4 runs against the Dodgers in his first start. His ERA after that game was 7.20. Today, his ERA is 3.68 on the season, not as a Brewer, on the season.
Yep.
So since he joined the Brewers, his ERA has gone down 352 points.
That's a lot, by the way.
He has almost cut his ERA in half as a Brewer. Somebody just commented on it on one of our posts about the Brewers being NL Central champs, saying that Matt Arnold should be executive of the year, and it's really hard to argue that.
Yeah.
Sal Frelick also made another really good defensive play in this game, adding to his potential Gold Glove case. Had a 91.2 mile an hour throw to catch a runner at third base. Also, Joey Ortiz made a really good play to start a double play in this game. I should have clipped it so we could talk about it, but they gave him a lot of credit during the game. You already mentioned Sal Frelick's hardest career hit. the Brewers as a team, they did a really good job of driving up Ranger Suarez's pitch count. He pitched 5 innings, but he was over 100 pitches.
Yeah.
Brewers got a couple more 2-0 runs in this game. And then you talked about Colin Ray coming in the pen with DL Hall making the start. That is one way to help manage the bullpen innings. Seeing Colin Ray, they did a really good job to finish the 8th with a double play and then slam the cracked door. That gave Colin Ray his first career save at any level.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude.
Love that for Colin Ray. So we can go through last night's game. I'll be straight up with you. I don't have a lot of takeaways. Frankie Montas was dealing through the first 4 innings. I mean, he had 7 strikeouts through 4 innings, finished with 10 in 5 2/3, and had 3 earned runs off of a solo shot to Nick Castellanos and a 2-run shot to Bryce Harper.
Yep.
Like, that's what those guys do. Those guys are power hitters.
Yep.
He had 2 walks, which isn't horrible, and 10 strikeouts, which is really not horrible.
Yeah.
So that. Looking at the offense, they faced Zach Wheeler. He's one of the best pitchers in the game. Only took him 99 pitches to get through 7 innings. He is a very efficient pitcher. It's not even just that the Brewers didn't do something well. He's just a very efficient pitcher, and in my opinion, one of the best pitchers in the game. Cody said he threw 1 bad cutter to Harper, and that's all it takes sometimes. But a guy like Bryce Harper is going to find your mistakes and put them in the seats.
Yeah, he's not going to miss too much. That's what makes him.
He's got multiple MVPs for a reason. He's insanely good.
Yep.
And my last thing was on Aaron Ashby. He allowed a run, but he also stranded 2 runners in the first minute he came in. So he has looked mortal in his last 2 appearances, but he's still been extremely good since coming back from Nashville as a reliever.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last thing that I'll say on this game last night, Yoel Payamps looked great. His velocity was good. His slider was biting. I'm glad that Yoel Payamps did not have to go on the injured list at all with his forearm tightness that he got in the Diamondbacks series. So any thoughts you had on last night?
Yeah. I don't like when the Brewers have to face Zach Wheeler just because he's just so goddamn good, dude.
Uh-huh.
A lot of Brewers fans are like, oh, it's the Brewer killer, Zach Wheeler. It's like, no, that guy's just like a killer in general. Like the killer Zach Wheeler. That guy is a stud. Been one of the best pitchers in the National League for a long time now.
I think he might have finished second. He was either second or third the year that Corbin Burns won his Cy Young in 2020.
I think he was second. I remember that conversation. I think he was second in 2021. Either way, that's a nuance. He was top 3 in Cy Young. So this guy is just like, it's not like he's just coming onto the scene. Not like this guy has been a monster. He's been in the playoffs, been to the World Series. I mean, this guy's done everything.
He was second. Good job.
I remember that conversation that we had.
I remember.
Yeah, like you said, 99 pitches for 7 innings. I mean, if the Brewers are going to get to where they're going to have to go, they're going to have to go through a guy like Zach Wheeler, and it's going to be a really tough test for this offense. But credit to Mitchell for getting the RBI he had last night, and also I wanted to say as well, really happy that Joel Payamps was able to turn his season around because it was not looking good early, but as of late, over the last month plus, he's been really, really good. So
yeah,
I love that for us. We had the conversation. I just looked in my notes. I wanted to have this conversation. We always have the conversation of, I don't understand why people, laugh or cheer like when some pitchers do bad or they make posts about it and just like poke fun at them. It's like, you guys understand that they play for us, right? And like, if they're all good, we have lots of options. So that's like a good thing for us, and it makes it harder for the other team. So we should really just cheer for all of our pitchers to be good. So and we have a lot of lefties out of the bullpen that are good. So it's really good to have a right-handed guy. Obviously, Devin Williams is right-handed, but it's good to have like a middle relief type of player, pitcher like Payamps be good for us. So,
yeah, and a guy who wouldn't be shy from leverage either because he was the setup man primarily last year. And Cody, every single pitcher has bad days. Like Chris Sale, the probable NL Cy Young winner this year, the Brewers rocked him.
Yeah, they did.
So everybody's going to have bad days. Just have to make sure that we're lifting them up, not putting them down when they happen. And that's the same that we would ask of anybody else. If Jake's having a bad day or he makes a mistake on something, I'm not going to be like, dude, why are you making all these mistakes? I'm going to be like, hey, just figure it out and do it right next time. Same if we have a bad show. If we had a bad show for some reason that didn't go well, we wouldn't want people being like, your guys' audio sucks today, or this, I could hear some buzzing in the background the whole show. It'd be just give a kind course correction and be like, hey, I don't know if you guys noticed you had an audio issue. We would appreciate that far more than just being like, your guys' show production sucks. Like, and that goes for anybody in any scenario. Especially when we're talking about people playing a game for our entertainment.
Yeah, it's literally entertainment. So just leave it entertainment.
So in the entertainment space, the Brewers have 6 games between now and next Wednesday. We'll see what they mean, because now that the Brewers are officially clinched, we'll see what happens as far as seeding, or, if they can win, say 10 out of the next 11 games, they could potentially tie the franchise record.
They could.
Not expecting that, but it would be a wild way to finish the season.
Dude, if they tie the franchise record and get a bye, you want to talk about immaculate vibes, bro? Oh, I don't know if they get more immaculate than that.
That would be crazy, especially on a year where they were projected to win 79.5 games, got a new manager, and have a potential Rookie of the Year candidate.
And a couple of Gold Gloves. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Man. Okay. So they have one more game against Philly tonight, a 4-game series against the Diamondbacks, and we'll have the first game of the Pittsburgh series next week.
Yeah. The Diamondback series is going to be interesting. They're kind of still fighting for positioning too.
Yeah, they have nothing settled.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to bring Mike in, and got to do it. We have to talk about the Alabama game. I did a watch party for this, so honestly, this probably isn't going to take long. Be straight up with you as far as recap goes. So, Jake, you can give me your thoughts on the defensive line.
Oh boy. Usually, you were there, Cody, huh?
Oh man.
So Tyler and I are one. When we share this same idea, is we prefer bad news first and good news after. We kind of flip that today, but
yeah,
it is what it is. We're gonna talk about it, and again, it's just a sport, and these are young men out there that are learning the sport essentially. So we're just gonna leave it at that. We're gonna have some hard conversations after we do this recap. So,
yep.
Cody, please stick with us. You are showing very high sports IQ, and I appreciate it. As far as the D-line, 1 run stop coming from the D-line. That was Brandon Lane. 0 sacks coming from the D-line. 1 hit coming from the D-line. That's Eli Hills. And only 1 hurry coming from the D-line. That was Kurt Neal. So I understand scheme. Having 3 guys up front makes it a little bit easier to double team for linemen to chip block and get up to the second level, which makes it harder for the linebackers to make tackles. The older I get and the more I learn about football, the more I am really getting turned off on 3-down lineman base defense. I really think that you need beef up front. I'm really becoming what my dad was and loving the 4-3, which is not a bad thing. My dad knows a lot of things and he taught me a lot of things. So I'm really becoming a 4-3 truther out here. 3-3-5 defense, unless you have the guys up front, it just ain't going to happen for you. And sadly, I got to be honest with you, the Badgers don't have the guys up front to run a 3-3-5. It is what it is. That's just honest.
James Thompson hurts. Also.
Yeah, it does. But if they're going to spend money on something, it better be the goddamn D-line. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. So looking at it from the linebacker perspective, honestly, in games like this, it almost gets hard to just find things to take away from it. But honestly, really what I'm going to say about the linebacking is Christian Allegro had another good game. Tackett Curtis had another good game. Aaron Witt has been pretty solid so far through 3 games. And I hate to admit it because he was my breakout candidate, but Jake Chaney is struggling.
I'm glad you said it because I'm going to in a little bit, but go ahead. Yeah.
He missed the first half due to the targeting penalty. Talk about that what you will from the South Dakota game. But Jake Chaney, Jake's and I have had this conversation. We had it last night. We've had it today. I feel that Jake Chaney is kind of in a similar situation to how Quay Walker is with the Packers, where there's some times where he's in the right place at the right time and just isn't finishing plays. But then there's other times where he's like one gap over in the wrong spot. So
he is that you're not wrong. He is. Just keep going. I'm going to talk more about that.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate because, like I said, I loved how Jake Chaney improved over last season. It was reminding me of 2 years ago, the way that CJ Getz was going, where he was improving, and then he had a really solid 2023 season. It was reminding me of that last year with Jake Chaney, and I'm like, cool, I'm going to find another guy to latch onto, and he'll have a really good season. He'll make me look smart. And I hate to say it, but I want to see more of Tackett Curtis and Christian Allegro and less of Jake Chaney for now, at least. It's a bummer because as the optimistic, positive show, we want to just be like, yeah, everything's great, and this is how it can be better. But the bottom line is we've put into our bio that we are optimistic and realistic, and the realistic part of it is that Jake Chaney is struggling, and I want to see him, and hopefully the bye week can help. I want to see him be in the right place at the right time and finishing plays more often.
Could I jump in?
Yep.
The biggest difference, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, Cody can tell me if I'm wrong, the biggest difference I see from Tackett Curtis, Jesus, I said Tackett Curtis and Allegro compared to Jake Chaney right now is the quickness and the physicality. Both of them. They're reacting quicker, and they're playing with more physicality. And, I watched my son's game last night, and I talked to him, and I told him the same thing. I said, you guys can come on the field and you can dance around, you can have a good time, and you can think that you're going to win. But as soon as you get punched in the mouth, if you don't respond by punching them back in the mouth, you ain't doing shit. You have to play physical on every single play. That's the consistency basis that football requires, and that's what these young inside linebackers are bringing, and that's what the starters are not bringing. That's exactly what they're lacking up front on the D-line, in my opinion, is the physicality. They may have talented guys who are quick, guys that can make a swim move, guys that can power rush. But on a consistency basis with the physicality, it's just not there. Yeah. That was the biggest difference between Alabama and Wisconsin on Saturday.
And I'll throw this out there, too, is part of that goes into it is discipline. And I think to a point, your point on the physicality, the read and react, I'll say is playing with instincts, too. I think those guys, Allegro and Curtis specifically are trusting their instincts. And Curtis you can see that he's really athletic and fast, which is cool because we're going to see next year he's probably going to be on somebody's breakout list. But looking at it, it seems like Chaney, and I'll throw Jaheim Thomas into this basket as well, are too often. Sometimes there are good times to let this be the case, but they're too often letting the game come to them instead of taking the game to the opponent. Sometimes that works. Sometimes it's good to let things come to you, but not 100% of the time, not 80% of the time. Sometimes. But there's got to be times where you're taking it to your opponent. So, Mike, you can give me your thoughts on the secondary and the defense.
I'm going to start off with something positive real quick before I go the other direction. Shout out to Camp Randall, the stadium, the fans and everything on Saturday. Couldn't really ask for more in terms of an atmosphere. If you want to be really nitpicky about it at kickoff, the student section was probably 88 to 90% full. And within the first 5 to 6 minutes of the first quarter, it was full. So no old ass, fans should go out and bitch, okay? Because the whole place was full, was packed to the gill. It's as good as what you could ever ask for in terms of the environment. First class environment. The Bama fans that I was around, first class fans, honestly. This is also not their first rodeo in terms of playing in a hostile environment. So handled it pretty well. The people around me. I talked legit football with them about the SEC, Big Ten, Like, it was some good conversations I had in the stands too. So yeah, shout out to the Bama fans that I was around as well.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Wisco Fanatics was everywhere. We had a Wisco Fanatic at the Badger game, and then Tyler and I covered Lambeau Field this weekend. So we were everywhere, people.
We were in all the football stadiums.
We were
all the football stadiums.
Yeah, I took in the views, and the views were great. People were great. The football just wasn't the greatest. So anyway, getting into the secondary. I mean, yeah, not too many positives out of here either for the most part. The biggest thing, I mean, we had short field a handful of times, 2-3 times, but the biggest, gut-wrenching thing was obviously, getting that missed field goal by Vacos. And then Alabama literally with, I think it was 30, 40 seconds left, goes 2 plays for 71 yards for a touchdown right before half. And I lost it in the stands. That's inexcusable. Can you blame some of that on no pass rush? Yes. Can you blame some of that on, D-line, whatever? Yes, you can. At the end of the day, our secondary did get tested for the first time this year. And I don't care with going 2 plays for 71 yards and a touchdown with that much time left on the clock. That is absolutely asinine. I can't believe that happened. I literally blame everybody in the secondary on that last possession. So,
can I throw this out? Because I'm not saying that it would have changed anything, but I think there was a push off on that touchdown.
On Rico, right? Because he was going like this. Yeah.
You can see it. There's people have pictures of it where the dude is like hands in the chest as he's making his cut. And it's like, okay, as if Alabama needs the help.
Yeah, but, exactly. Right. Exactly. So,
that's not to say that even if they're backed up 15 yards, that they can't just throw another bomb to Ryan Williams, because that kid's
right. No, he's legit. I mean, Ryan Williams made us look like, little kids like guarding him, because it wasn't just that, right? It was also literally the swing, the Alabama second possession. Ryan, he did like a swing pass and he just smoked Delancey in the slot there, and and he had him beat by like 10 yards. That wasn't even that was child's play, I think, to Alabama once they saw that coverage. So
it's like
kudos to them. Kudos to them for seeing that. That was a big third down too. We could have used another stop, but here we are. But anyway, I mean, my biggest takeaway, the snap count. Zachman and Hunter Wohler didn't come out all game. They played all 57 snaps. I think right around that. Zachman had 4 tackles. Wohler had 2 tackles. Xavier Lucas got 13 snaps, as much as that matters. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. Nizier got 47 snaps. Rigo got 45, but I think that was more so to get, Xavier Lucas, Max Lofi in the game and whatnot. But not too many takeaways. There's not much good to say, after getting your ass kicked like this, right? I will say in general, I think my personal opinion, in combination with giving them the short field with, that last possession before halftime, we basically gave them 21 free points, is how I look at it for the most part. But, even with, it sucks having a backup quarterback out. It sucks, all those other scenarios as well.
We'll talk about
do I think we win this game even with Tyler Van Dyke playing? No, there's just no way in my view.
We'll talk about the offense in a second, because we'll go through that whole part.
Correct. So not too many takeaways. Again, there's no on the defensive side of the ball. They're really, for the most part, I did not have too many good things to say, because we did the big plays. I said it last week. The big play, it was going to be, they're going to run the ball and then they're going to go for the deep shots or the big plays. And that's pretty much exactly what happened for the most part. We got smoked on a couple, 30, 40 yarders, and, here we are. So it's something that I was hoping I'd be closer to the score on. But again, I think somehow we kind of gave away 3 of those, touchdowns in a way. But yeah, we got to move on to next week for sure. We're going to talk about that here shortly, but
Milrow will be in the
not too much good I really could come up with.
Cody said they need people selling in beer in the stands at Camp Randall. Other than that, it was great.
Yes. Quick story. But now that Cody brought it up, I went to go get a beer at halftime and I will say it was not worth it. It took through all of halftime plus a few minutes into the third quarter. I was losing my shit, basically. Thankfully, there was a TV out in the lobby so I could watch. But no, it's the first. I get it. They probably don't know what they're doing being the first year, selling alcohol and everything.
No,
But
yeah.
they need to do like the same setup as what the Packers do. Somebody told me they have at Lambeau. Are they selling like beer in the buckets there now? Like, do they got people like walking out there and selling? Yep. Okay. That's exactly what they need to do at Camp Randall then. If they do that, it's going to be fine. But, as far as getting beverages and food even, it was a nightmare. That needs to get cleaned up.
Yeah. All right. Any last thoughts on the defense?
No.
Yeah, before we transition, I have a thought. Okay. So the Badgers and Fickle's big on character, right? They're going to have an opportunity this week to really find out what kind of men and what kind of character are on this team. And we're going to transition into the offense, and we're going to have a conversation about, what's next at the quarterback position at the end of this, just so everybody who's watching understands. That's going to be a really interesting conversation. Please join us in the comments. It's going to be a good one. But we're going to really find out what kind of men we got lining up in the Cardinal and white. So.
Jake, thoughts on special teams before we talk offense?
Vacos is so goddamn frustrating, dude. He's so frustrating. He's like the wide receiver where you throw it up to him and he just one-hands it over two people and you're just like, holy shit, that guy's insane. And then you throw it to him on a 2nd and 10 and he has two hands on it, nobody around him, and he drops it and you're like, he makes no sense.
So James Jones.
Yes. He literally makes a 53-yarder. And I'm like, oh, damn, that was a nice kick, give us a nice 3-0 lead first drive. And then the kick that he missed, I was just like, dude. I seriously was looking at it. I said, dude. I was like, dude, or what are we doing here? And then 2 plays later, I'm just like, what the just happened?
Yeah. 10 points.
And mind you, I'm sitting by a smelly-ass pond watching my kids fish. So that was just an all-around bad situation for me. But Bertram's he's impressive. I feel like the punters in this state are really good. They both had 59 yarders this week. Bertram's had 2 inside the 20, so good for him. And Vinny Anthony kick return, again, 3 for 62. So it looks like kick return is another area where people aren't really paying attention, but could use a little bit of a jolt.
All right. Going into the offense, Jake, what do you think of the offensive line?
Okay. Don't hate me, but I feel like the offensive line actually pass blocked pretty well for the situation that they got handed.
They had a good game.
Overall,
I will let you continue, Jake.
They didn't run block well, but that was and I will say this. I'm going to put a little caveat in there. I feel like Bama was kind of stacking the box and daring us to throw, especially after Tyler Van Dyke went out. It was tough to run the ball. Tough to do anything, really. But overall, gave up 1 sack. It's not bad. 0 quarterback hits, so that's outstanding. 4 hurries from Malman, Nelson, Renfro, and Huber, and then 5 pressures: Nelson, Malman, Renfro, Huber, and Malman. So I mean, honestly, not bad overall game by the O-line. You can't blame them for the offensive struggles. That's all I'm going to say.
No, that's fair. Looking at the passing game, Cody said outside of Pauling, I just don't see anybody with playmaking ability. I could be wrong, but we don't have a Jonathan Taylor or Braylon Allen on the backfield or anyone on the outside. Mike, I'll leave the Jonathan Taylor or Braylon Allen in the backfield part to you because you have run game. But for me, trying to write takeaways for the passing game, I just wrote a big question mark because I did this game for Patreon on Saturday. And I spent a good portion of the pregame show talking about how Tyler Van Dyke has made me optimistic for what the Badgers can do on offense this year. He was 5 for his first 5. He completed all 5 of the passes that he threw. And he was showing some scrambling ability that I didn't really think he had in his game. We kind of thought he was going to be like a pocket presence, but he's showing that he was able to handle some RPO situations and showing he can make some good decisions outside of the pocket. So I was really, really liking what I was seeing from Tyler Van Dyke.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's no more Tyler Van Dyke. And now I'm trying to figure out what the passing game is even doing, because what do you do when you, for the second year in a row, lose your starting quarterback? It makes it really hard, in my opinion, to get a gauge of what the progress of the program as a whole is going to be, because you don't have the guy that you were installing in there to plug and play. It makes it really hard to gauge the wide receiver talent, because now you are playing with a backup. And as much 1A, 1B conversation as there was, I personally don't think that that's the case. I think it's a pretty clear Tyler Van Dyke was 1 and Locke was 2, and they were doing the 1A, 1B thing to keep Locke's confidence up. And it's possible that his mental understanding is completely there. I believe that part of it. I believe that Braden Locke could have a total handle on the system and everything. But when you look at on the field, there is a difference in how these two play. So for me, as far as the passing game goes, I kind of feel like we're going to be in a situation where we're going to have some other conversations. And I'm going to save that, because we are going to have that conversation after Mike gives his thoughts on the running game. We're going to have a specific quarterback conversation. So, Mike, I'll let you give your thoughts on the running game before we go to the quarterback room.
Sure. So, not the greatest day in the running back room, obviously. Two very costly fumbles in this game. Total, I'm going to put this stat out there too. Total, the batters have 8 fumbles this year. That is not good at all whatsoever. That's something that needs to get fucking cleaned up. It's not just the running backs, receivers too. So I just threw that out there just for the total amount. But anyway, I'm going to throw something out here that's definitely going to rock the boat as far as the running back room goes. And this could kind of tie into what we're going to go into, because this is the future. I think personally, Chez Mellusi had 11 carries, 66 yards. I personally think he should not be the starter anymore. I think, my personal opinion, I think he's lost a step. I don't think he's either not 100%. I think it's one or the other. I personally think Cade Giacomelli should be the starter of the batters. I kind of mentioned that to Jake in the last week in our show. He was showing a few more positives in these first 2 games, just in terms of explosiveness between like the 2 other guys too, with Tawi Walker.
I'd throw instincts in there too. I would go beyond just explosiveness. I think his vision has been better also.
Yeah. And I think just watching, he only got in for 19 snaps. He had 8 carries, 39 yards. It's unfortunate he lost that fumble too, because that was actually a good run. But
yeah,
just looking at it again, week after week after week, I just, there's no question in my view who's got the better vision and explosiveness. I think it's Cade Giacomelli. And I think this next week and a half, again, which we're going to be talking about, you got to be treating this like a fall camp, I think, in this running back room. And you just I don't care if it's those 3, I don't care if it's the freshman, whoever comes out of there and looks the best, that's who you should be giving the ball to.
That's what I thought you were going to say at first. I thought you were going to be like, it's Darian Dupree time.
No, not yet. Hey, not yet. But I mean, he needs to be involved. After these last 3 games, he's clearly showed that he can play, right? But yeah, just to finish it out here, Cade Giacomelli, 8 carries, 39 yards, the fumble. Tawi Walker, 11 carries, 26 yards, not the greatest. And then Darian Dupree had 8 carries for 24 yards, and the rest is history. But just going back to Jake's point with the O-line, I actually thought overall the offensive line played a pretty good game given the circumstances. Mm-hmm. And again, we're going to go into the topic here shortly, but it has more so to do like, okay, what now in the QB room and our playmakers. And I'm kind of going to tie that with, whether it's play calling or whatnot. But, the running back room, as far as I'm concerned, yes, collectively, there's not too much explosiveness right now from what we've seen. That being said, I am now jumping on the boat where I think we need to have Cade Giacomelli start for now. we also need to involve Darian Dupree a little more and potentially Dylan Jones going forward. Hopefully this next week and a half will, tell that story or tell something else. And we'll see what we can do from there.
Yeah. And we'll preview the USC game next week because the Badgers are on bye this weekend. So we can go into the quarterback room. So Tyler Van Dyke is out for the season. So the question being, where do the Badgers go from here? Jake, give me your thoughts. Where do the Badgers go from here with Tyler Van Dyke out for the season, and now the second year in a row we're turning to the Braden Locke as a backup?
All right. I'm going to try my very best to not sound mean and talk down to anybody, but Braden Locke is just not the answer in my opinion. He's probably going to get the start for the next probably – he'll probably be the lock-in number one guy for the rest of the season, unfortunately. But that's just not what I would do. We got guys behind him like Cole Recru, fan of the show here. We've interviewed him. He seems like a really highly confident kid. He has some athletic ability. You get into a situation where the offense really isn't doing anything. Why not throw Cole Recru out there, and you got to find out what you have in him, right? He's a guy that's on a scholarship, so why not give him a chance? Then you have a guy, Mabry Mature. This kid has been recruiting for the Badgers for the last 2 years. He's a crazy recruiter on Twitter. He's a pretty damn good quarterback too. If you get into a situation where you start losing some games, you lose to a Purdue, you lose to a Northwestern. Oh, good God, I hope not. But say you get into a really, really tough spot, I think it might just be time to be like, all right, we're going to use this year as a reset year. We're going to put the freshmen in. That's where Mike's talking about putting the 2 freshman running back in. We're going to put a freshman quarterback in, and we're just going to build this thing from the ground up, right? That kind of seems like what Fickle was trying to do to begin with. But if you have to get to a situation where you have to get to know these kids and get them to understand timing, to understand the offense, it is what it is. We're in this.
I'm going to double down on this because you and I had this conversation before we started the show. I'm going to double down on what you just said, and the broader potential idea is to say, okay, Braden Locke played in 4 games last year. He started 3, played in 4. Mm-hmm. This year he's already played in 1. Do you give him, say, 8 games or 7 games to let him have a quote-unquote full season worth of games to be like, okay, we gave him a full season to see what he is? So that would be USC, Purdue, Rutgers, Northwestern, Penn State, Iowa, and Oregon. And then you take the last 2 games to be like, okay, we're just going to throw somebody out there, whether it be Cole Recru to give him some experience, or do you put Mabry Matoyer in thinking he's going to be your QB1 next year? So the perspective I'll take on that is I think if they don't start Mabry Matoyer sooner, that they're just going to redshirt him so that he has another year of eligibility. And that takes you to maybe putting Cole Recru in for the last 2 games. Now, the wired version of what I'll say is I think, and I said this to Jake, and he agreed with me, that Braden Locke has 2 games. He has 2 games to show more than he's shown in his 5 games of experience so far. And the reason I say 2 games is because you're about to go play USC in California. I don't think after a week, even with the bye, that you're going to find enough out about Braden Locke in his 4.5 games of experience to be like, okay, after seeing him play half of a game against, or 3/4 of a game against Alabama and number 18 USC, that we know exactly what we have in Braden Locke. So I think you give him USC and Purdue. You give him those 2 games. And if that's the case, that you put him in for those 2 games and he struggles, then you turn to the other 2. You look at Mabry Matoyer and you look at Cole Recru and you say, okay, we have now Rutgers, Northwestern, Penn State, Iowa, Oregon, Nebraska, and Minnesota. Do we want to expose Mabry Matoyer to that much ranked team opponent action? Do we want to put Cole Recru in to see what he's got? Or do we want to redshirt Matoyer, put in Cole Recru, see what he's got, and just find out? But right now, Braden Locke is in a make or break situation. So I could see any point between the next 2 and 7 games being a find out situation. Unfortunately, I could see also a possibility where Braden Locke starts the rest of the year. And if that is the case, I hope it's happening because he is continuing to build and look better as the games go on. Maybe he has a surprise performance against a really good team because they have a lot of them coming up. We knew even with Tyler Van Dyke that this season was a gauntlet and that 7 wins was going to be, an okay mark. So even without Tyler Van Dyke, the guy that I was very excited about for the first 2 games and 5 plays, without him, now this rest of the season becomes about finding out.
So you just reminded me of something before I let Mike go here. All those Packers fans are also Badgers fans who are laughing at Rodgers about playing 3 plays. Karma is real, and karma found us. And now I have to pay for it because you're a dickhead.
Twice.
Stop laughing at injuries. It's not fucking funny.
Yeah. Okay,
Sorry,
Mike.
Go ahead.
Mike, with Tyler Van Dyke out for the season, where do you think the Badgers go from here?
So the first thing I wrote down, I mentioned it before, you got to treat these next 2 weeks as fall camp as far as practice goes, and that's not just at the quarterback position. That's offense, defense, whatnot. I will say with the whole Mabry, Matoyer, Cole LaCrue, Braden Locke thing, I think it's going to be at least 2 weeks, and I only say that because none of those Matoyer or Cole LaCrue were not getting reps with the first team, the second team even. Maybe Matoyer a little bit with the second team, but right now it's all about getting those reps for Mabry and Cole LaCrue as they make this step up. So it's about getting that camaraderie with the first teamers just to build that up. So I think simply for that reason, we're going to see Braden Locke for at least, good or bad, even unless we're down like 40-0 for the next 2, even 3 games, just so they can get that part of it down. So now I'm going to start on the offensive side, and then I might just let you guys go and talk for a little bit, and then I'm going to talk defense as far as where do the Badgers go from here. So as far as the offense, I'm going to talk offensive side of the ball. I personally think after watching these first 3 weeks, I do think we are, as far as the air raid goes, I don't know if it's a playmaker issue or if it's, maybe Fickle wants Longo to do certain things. But I think as far as an air raid offense goes, we are very, very conservative, I think, in comparison to what Longo wants to do versus what Fickle wants to do. I don't know what you guys' thoughts are on that, but after 3 weeks, I just think, as far as an air raid offense goes, we're kind of, I don't know if we're just putting handcuffs on because we don't have the playmakers, or we just, maybe Fickle wants only Longo to run certain packages, maybe focus on the run a little more, which that my biggest takeaway after 3 weeks is we can run the ball. The Badgers can run the ball. I think that is that's foregone conclusion. Do we have the best running backs in the world? No. And we have someone that are unproven too. But I do feel like, and I'm also saying this because through the first 3 weeks, there's not much aggression or not many kill shots, as I'm going to call it, in terms of extending the field, making plays downfield, some deep shots. The one play that I can recall from the last game that Braden Locke missed on was the one to Tretch, who was wide open. That was for an incomplete pass. If you really want to throw another play out there, I guess it could be the one going to Bryson Green, and we got a pass interference call with that. Or no, that was an offsides call, which was also pass interference. But, I'm just thinking about, we have Bryson Green, who's, 6'3", and if he's got one-on-one coverage, why not just take a deep shot and, just go for a 50-50 ball? We're lacking those kinds of plays right now through the first 3 weeks. I don't know. Maybe it's because, Braden Locke has a limited arm. He can only do those 10 to 15-yard passes. But one of my biggest issues through the first 3 weeks is not going for those kill shots really ever. And is it because we don't have the playmakers necessarily, or Are we a little is there something going on in terms of play calling, what we should be dealing with? Because again, we're our time of possession is super high. Like it is, top half, top quarter in the country, right? But the execution is, shit. Everything else is shit, but the time of possession, which is pretty good. So that just tells me we're not taking many deep shots at all, or we simply just don't have the playmakers for it. And I'm kind of questioning that a little bit now, 3 weeks in. Yes, I know we just played Alabama, who's a top 5 team in the country. And I'm kind of glad. I am glad we played this game because we somewhat know where we're at in terms of, okay, how close are we out to some of these top teams? And right now we're just not. From an execution standpoint, I am starting to think from a talent standpoint too, we're just not there on the offensive side. So that being said, I'll let you guys give feedback on that. But yeah, that's what those are just my first thoughts after the first 3 weeks here.
You want to go or you want me to go?
Honestly, I don't have too many like season-long projection thoughts because I'm finding it really hard to get an evaluation when the most important position in sports has been in constant flux since the new staff got here. We haven't had a longer than 4-game stretch of who we want at quarterback playing quarterback.
That's fair.
To me, that makes it really hard to get a strong evaluation. You can make, whatever takeaways you want, but like I said, we haven't had 4 games in a row of who we wanted in the position to be like, okay, they've established something. So I will say to the people who are saying things like the Badgers don't have an identity, what chance have they had to establish one?
Yeah, that's actually completely fair. It's like teams that switch out OCs all the time. I agree with that.
Quarterback is the most important position in sports. There's no argument.
Yep, that's why they get paid a lot of money.
And if that position isn't one that you have stabilized, it makes it harder to establish everything else. Sure, you can say defense is the other side of the ball, but when you're talking about a football game, quarterback's the most important. So that's where I'll leave it. It makes it really hard to establish an identity without consistent quarterback play, which the Badgers have not had because of injuries.
Here's what I'll say. This is my 2 cents. Just from listening to you talk, Mike. One, the thing that I thought was going to change the biggest was the tempo, which last year they came out and they played with tempo the first couple of games. And I was like, okay, obviously I'm going to have to be patient, but as the season goes on, they get a little bit more crisp and they're playing with tempo, and then they eat you up for 11 yards and 20 yards, and they take a deep shot. Maybe that's incomplete, but then they're right back to it, and then they run the ball down your throat for 15 yards or 8 yards, and they're just consistently, sorry, as I've stumbled over that word, consistently taking little chunks, but at a high rate, it feels like you're getting your ass whooped. That's what I think the air raid offense is really supposed to look like. The Badgers, to me, seem like, and to Tyler's point, I'm glad you went before me because it made me rethink what I was going to say. Maybe they're trying to combine pro-style offense with the air raid offense, and I got to be honest, that's just not a mixture that looks very good right now.
It doesn't work.
You brought in a guy like Renfro because he had experience with Fickle, and he was an experienced signal caller up front to kind of get the line set, right? And then not having the quarterback is a really, really big key. Now, this is where, with the quarterback, this is why I think this. I think they need a dual threat. I think if they had a dual threat athletic guy, that this offense would run way more smooth. Because when a play breaks down, quarterback can scramble out for 6 yards. You're still on schedule at that point, right? Yep. Instead of a guy who runs out and he gets caught by the freaking defensive tackle, I'm like, what are we doing here?
You at least have a chance to make something out of nothing instead of just having to accept that you got nothing out of nothing.
And if you wanted to see the biggest difference, and I'm sorry to go to NFL, but go watch the Bears-Houston Texans game last Sunday night. Now,
No.
Caleb Williams got away with a lot of bullshit in college, running around 15 yards behind the line of scrimmage, making guys miss because he's faster than this other 20-year-old kid, and then making a throw where it's just like, that was a good throw, but you should not have gotten away with that. You can get away with that bullshit in college. You ain't getting away with that bullshit in the NFL. Give me a guy that can get away with some bullshit, put him in some cardinal and white, and I'm okay with it. But we haven't had that guy. The Badgers historically have never had that guy. Okay, Russell Wilson. But we saw how good that looked, right? We saw how good that looked. A guy that got away with some bullshit and then was able to throw off platform.
Yep.
That's why I'm advocating for a guy like Cole Crew. I feel like he's a guy who is athletic enough to get away with some bullshit.
I feel like he'd have fun getting away with bullshit too.
He would. He would talk shit about. He would talk shit.
You're probably
He
right.
would be a Wisconsin version of Johnny Manziel, in my opinion. So let's let's see what we got. But I think playing a little bit more pace would be something that would benefit this offense a lot.
Yeah. All right. Well, either of you guys have any other thoughts that you want to give? Mike, I know you wanted to talk about the defense and where they go from here. So I'll let you give those thoughts, and then we'll get you out of here.
Okay. My main theme, this is for both sides now. As we basically starting a new season, right, with the whole Big Ten and everything. And that's why this next week and a half, 2 weeks is important. Again, this applies to both sides of the ball, but I think it's very, very important for this staff to now have the perspective, because I think Fickle right now, in terms of his players, I think he has a perspective. I'm not going to rock the boat right now. And what I mean by that is I'm not going to play the young guys over the seniors. I think that's not only trickled into being somewhat of a problem now. I kind of think last year there was some issues with that too. But I think through the first 3 weeks, we're starting to see some of these younger guys that should clearly be on the field a lot more than the snap count shows. Yeah, I mean, it starts in the linebacker room. Tyler obviously mentioned it. Tackett Curtis 100% needs to start. I literally wrote down, and you brought it up, reacting. He reacts to the ball way better, I think, and versus all the linebackers out there on the team, at least so far, three weeks into the game. I also think Christian Allegro should start. However, I do think Jakeem Thomas is going to get the nod at least for a little bit yet. But I think you're going to see Christian's snap count go up a little more. Just instinctual. Like you brought it up. I think Tackett and Christian, not by a long shot, but I think they have a better, they can track things way better in comparison.
I feel like they're playing on their toes more than their heels. I'll say that.
Yeah.
That
I mean, Tackett's like a heat-seeking missile. Like he will go, and he
can go sideline to sideline. I mentioned that last week.
The South Dakota game, perfect example. He's going to be, just a heads up, he's my breakout player for next season.
Calling that shot already. I like it.
Yeah, because I followed that kid's recruitment for the longest time and just learning about him and everything. His uncle, who was a high school coach. Yeah, that's besides the point. But the don't rock the boat concept needs to, go away. Defensive side of the ball, and it doesn't only apply to the linebacker room. I mean, even in fall camp, Thomas Heiberger, the true freshman, he's a perfect example. He was outside linebacker. He was running with the twos, his first week in, and then he gets hurt, but he's supposed to come back later this year. But the staff I know is really, really high on him. So I think you're going to end up hearing his name a little bit, because if there's also one thing that's been a big, big problem for this defense is we're not getting a pass rush. We really are not. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the only sack we got was Leon Lowry again, but that was because Jalen Milroe basically gave himself up. So we're not getting any sacks, no pass rush for the most part, which in turn, we're not getting any turnovers either. That's also a big, big issue with this defense. So I think the front seven, that has to change. I think there's also a reason why, we go to these, 2-4-5 sets or whatnot. It's because we also don't have the D linemen to get the job done. any sort of recruiting shows that you watch or whatnot in terms of getting transfers, freshmen or whatnot, they say the two most important positions in college football are D linemen and wide receivers, because those are the most hard to come by, but also can be some of the biggest playmakers. And I think just watching these first 3 games, we have Will Pauling, we have Tretch, but he's been on a limited snap count. I think we do have Bryson Green, but I would like to see him be used a little more.
Yeah, he's had flashes.
And I just don't think, and applies with the D linemen, we don't have those playmakers yet that can, make those plays. And I think that it's just trickling down to that, and that's why I think ultimately at the end of the day, the staff wants to do that 2-4-5. I don't think we have the beef up front at this time right now. Even with the first 3-4 guys on the depth chart, Elijah Hills might be the one exception so far. 3 games in that I can confidently say, okay, he's proved that he can make some plays. He deserves more snaps. But I'm not going to lie, any one of these other linemen that have been playing for us right now, that applies. And I'm saying everybody. I'm literally calling everybody out right now in the D line. I just don't see it right now. And basically Alabama put that nail in the coffin or whatnot, because I think we're seriously lacking in that room right now.
So who is the recruiter, the main recruiter that you were giving credit to in our first primer?
So Blazik, but the O-line coach, if that's who you mean. Recruiter. Yeah, so recruiter, if you're talking
who's like the top
Max Steinecker, Pat Lambert, Whitlow's the D-line coach, if that's who you meant.
Okay. Whoever the hell are the top 5 recruiters, recruiting guys, managers, whatever you want to call them, on the Badgers, they need to go hunting for some fucking front 7 players, dude.
And it's not like they haven't tried, especially in this transfer. I'm going to specify actually with the D line for this one, because throughout the December, January, February months, there was at least a good 3, 4, 5 defensive linemen that we were offering. You could clearly tell that this is a position that was and is lacking, in my view. So we're going to have to pay. That's another thing I wanted to get off my chest here. We need to, I think maybe we just haven't embraced NIL. We have a little bit, but maybe we're also just not quite up there in terms of Wall Street, in terms of how much.
It's gradual, not all in.
Yeah.
So we'll push a little bit more. Okay, we'll push a little bit more. Okay, we'll push a little bit more, instead of just being we realize that football is the money-making program of this university. Here you go.
They just need to do it. Just go for it. You can't. What happens when you half-ass something? It doesn't turn out the way that you thought, right? You can't half-ass this shit. You got to just go
especially
for it.
With football. Especially with football.
That's the money maker.
I would put in the conversation, but if we're talking football, it's men's basketball is this much.
Yeah. The basketball team is going to be fantastic, but
yeah. And the same thing goes for women's volleyball and for men's hockey and women's hockey. Those teams are all great. They do great things, but you cannot tell me that people are coming to Wisconsin because of men's hockey, women's hockey, volleyball, and men's basketball, and not put college football in the conversation.
Yeah. Wisconsin's a high revenue program. I'm just gonna leave it at that. We make a lot of money. Football is our bell cow at the end of the day. I hate to say it, because basketball is my favorite sport, overall, but
same.
Volleyball is great. The volleyball program is obviously awesome. There's other great programs there. Hockey kicks ass now again.
Both of them.
Yeah. So, but football at the end of it, Wisconsin makes money. There's plenty of other programs out there that would love to be in Wisconsin's position in terms of net revenue, in terms of what comes in to the program, dollars and cents wise. So,
and I'll say,
I personally, go ahead.
I was just going to say there are other schools that are in Wisconsin's position that are currently worse off than Wisconsin is.
Correct.
The 2 main ones that come to mind are Florida State and Auburn.
Yeah. I don't mean to get
Those 2 are both in much bigger messes than Wisconsin is.
Yeah.
I don't mean to get too off topic with the whole NIL thing, but we need to get the big companies based in Wisconsin to, do like what Walmart does and basically pay for all of Arkansas's players, right?
Well, I mean, that's what Phil Knight's doing with Oregon. So
yeah, exactly. I do think I think we're behind the eight ball on that. That kind of showed me a little bit because we were getting, some of these D linemen that we were offering were getting out recruited by some of these programs. I personally think Wisconsin is a better brand in terms of football. So I think we're lacking a little bit behind. We are on the right track. Don't get me wrong. There's Varsity Collective. There's the Potosi beer. There's, all this other stuff too. I still think there could be ways that we're not exploring yet, but yeah.
I have a good way to cap this off.
Okay.
So we'll end it on this. The Badgers, they need a Herb Cole.
That would work. I would take a Herb Cole.
What Herb Cole did for the Bucks, the Badgers football team needs a guy like that. So if anybody with $250 million that they would like to contribute to the Badger football program, we'd be happy for them.
Yeah.
But for somebody who cares that much that they're willing to all in for it.
I mean, majority of these kids, whether you're a transfer or just an incoming freshman, I really don't think they care much about, getting that education. I'm not going to speak for all of them, but I know a good chunk for sure at the end of the day. A degree is a degree no matter where you go for the most part, especially in big conferences like the top four or the big four, if you want to call it. A big part of this now is dollars and cents at the end of the day. Because that's, as a 17, 18-year-old kid, if you're getting a $200,000 check flashed in front of you, like, shit, that'd be so hard to, coming into that. Why would you say no?
Right.
So it's just figuring that landscape out too at the end of the day as we go forward, whether it's in the transfer portal market and these upcoming recruiting classes, whatnot. It's something that to keep an eye on, I would say for sure. But at the end of the day, we still got to play ball here for the next 9 weeks or whatever it is. And, the cream needs to rise to the crop, and it needs to do so fast, whether if you're a fucking senior, whether you're a freshman. At this point, you got to be open to playing your best guys at this point. And Vic's got to rock the boat, I think, now as we enter Big Ten season, just to see who we got.
Yeah, and that's what we'll see. We'll see what we got. The rest of this year is going to be a find out. They don't even have to fuck around because they're already going to find out because they are in a lose the most important position and find out. That's where they're at.
Yep.
So we will be back next Wednesday. Next Wednesday, we will preview the USC game. They're on bye this week, so they have a little bit of time to work on some things, which is good. Other than that, Jake and I will be back with Simon and Bryant on Tuesday night to recap Packers-Titans. And then Jake and I will be back again next Wednesday to discuss the next 6 Milwaukee Brewers games. Again, the Milwaukee Brewers, the magic number is officially 0. The Milwaukee Brewers have clinched the NL Central, so we love that. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in with us, for starting early to watch the Cubs lose to the A's, to see Pete Crow Armstrong gone into a double play to end the game, which was very satisfying. Thanks, everybody, for offering their comments on the Brewers and on the Badgers, and we will see you guys next week, Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah.